Stress in Work, a presentation on how ethics plays a role in stress in the workplace by Tori Hoshire. In order to move forward, we must first understand what stress is. Stress is a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. Stress is an individual response that can be felt differently by different people in different situations. We now know the definition of stress, but what causes it? The 10 leading causes of stress are money, childhood trauma, death of a loved one, divorce, health, personal relationships, a chronically ill child, pregnancy, danger, and work. Work is listed as the last leading cause of stress, well, because it is a leading cause of stress, and the stress associated with work may be mitigated by both the employee and the employer. This is a unique cause of stress because both the employee and the employer have a responsibility to minimize the effects of workplace stress with many ethical implications. Let's delve deeper into stress. Occupational stress or workplace stress is an incompatibility between an individual and his or her work environment that is perceived to be stressful. There have been many studies completed and articles written about concerns with stress in the workplace that may potentially lead to mental health disorders. So what causes occupational or workplace stress? There are many causes, and every individual may feel different about what causes stress and how stressful the situation really feels to them. Some of the most common forms of workplace stress are time demands. All jobs require a certain amount of time, but when is the time demand more than a person can take? We live in a culture where spending an ever-increasing amount of time is almost mandatory in order to look to superiors that you're doing a good job and that you are fully committed. Task demands. Some people may find that tasks that they are required or asked to complete for their job are stressful. Perhaps the task is too difficult, it doesn't fit their job description, and it's not something they want to do. Just like demands, we live in a culture of not saying no, and most people continue to take on more and more work. Company culture or expectations. People may feel stressed if they don't feel that they fit in with the company, or perhaps the culture of the workplace is to work long hours and the company doesn't encourage a healthy work-life balance. Companies may have many expectations of their workers that can lead to stress. Job ambiguity. A person may feel more stressed if their job is not defined. Currently, with technology advancing at a very fast rate, workers could feel that they can't keep up. A worker may also be made to feel that they are constantly being asked to do new or more tasks, which leads to job ambiguity. When a person doesn't have a defined job, it may lead to feeling that they are not doing their job well or that they don't know how to do their job well. Poor supervision. When a person does not get along well or doesn't feel that they can trust their supervisor or supervisors, this can be a very big contributor of workplace stress. Poor training. When an employee is asked to complete a task but isn't given the proper training or tools, this can create a very stressful environment. It can also be stressful to others because what one employee is not able to do, someone else will have to. A lack of support. When employees do not feel supported at work, this can lead to stress. If a person doesn't have anyone to go to for direction or to voice their concerns, this can lead to problems. Demoralization. People can be demoralized in a number of ways at work. This can happen with coworkers or superiors. Feeling disrespected or a lack of fairness can contribute to stress in the workplace. An uncomfortable or hostile work environment. If an employee is being bullied or harassed, which really should never be allowed or should happen, but if it does, this can be a significant source of workplace stress that can really lead to other potentially dangerous situations. Trauma at work. This cause of stress is usually associated with inherently dangerous or life or death situations at work. What if an employee was subject to seeing others in terrible positions, such as with a terminally ill disease, coming upon a awful car wreck, or witnessing the death of a fellow employee? Or what if their job is extremely dangerous and could threaten their life? This is stressful for the employee and their family, which could lead to even more stress on the individual. Taking into consideration all the different causes of workplace stress, this leads to the ultimate question of, does the workplace have an ethical obligation to prevent stress and the issues associated with high levels of stress, even if the stressor is an outside source? So, what happens when people experience high levels of stress in the workplace? There are many negative factors associated with high levels of stress in the workplace. First of all, stress can lead to mental illness. The most common mental illnesses associated with stress are anxiety and depression. High levels of stress can also lead to burnout, and burnout can lead to turnover, which turnover is really the least problematic result. Burnout can lead to presenteeism, which means that the employees come to work, but they aren't actually mentally there. This can reduce productivity and accuracy significantly. Burnout can also lead to a hostile work environment. The person that is burned out could turn to hostility, but those that have to pick up their slack may also become hostile. A hostile work environment could range from general unhappiness to more serious outcomes like physical or verbal abuse. Stress can also lead to a workers' compensation claim. Stress is a valid reason for being disabled when it's in the form of a mental illness, and workers' compensation claims can reduce revenue. Stress can also lead to poor health. It can result in coronary heart disease and hypertension. Stress can lead to physical and mental exhaustion, which both are not contributors to a productive or accurate work environment. High levels of stress can lead to profit loss due to the cost of absences, cost of recruitment for turnover, and can even create litigation costs. The profits lost due to stress are not insignificant. A recent study shows that the U.S. loses between $200 to $300 billion a year on occupational stress. A very important aspect of stress in the workplace that cannot be overlooked is the mistakes that may be caused by a stressed employee. Mistakes at work, especially in positions where another person's health is at stake or at risk, could create a whole other ethical issue in itself. Stress causes mistakes, and mistakes could truly lead to the death of another person. This is a huge consideration that employers need to consider when dealing with stress in the workplace. Last on the list, that is not all-encompassing, is that stress can lead to family or social issues, which in turn can create more stress in the workplace. All of this information leads us back to the initial question asked. Do workplaces have an ethical obligation to help prevent stress and the issues associated with high levels of stress, even if the stressor is a source outside of work? The answer is yes. They absolutely have an ethical obligation to ensure the well-being of their employees. It is in both the employee and the employer's best interest to ensure that their employees are healthy physically, mentally, and emotionally. Ethically speaking, businesses have many reasons why stress in the workplace should be taken very seriously and addressed. Since we have established that businesses do have an ethical obligation to help prevent stress in the workplace, what are the actual current laws that protect employees from stress and stress-related illnesses in the workplace? First, we have the Occupational Safety and Health Act, also known as OSH. We have harassment laws, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Age Discrimination the Age Discrimination in Employment Act of 1967, and the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. There are no actual laws or requirements that specifically outline stress in the workplace. The illnesses associated with stress are included in the laws, but there is nothing that defines a business's responsibility of dealing or how to best deal with stress in the workplace. With the ethical obligations that businesses have to deal with stress in the workplace, what should they do? Since the laws that incorporate employees in stress aren't specific, businesses should enact their own policies and/or requirements regarding stress. Laying out requirements and policies up front should help protect the employee and help the business understand their obligations. This concept is especially important in those workplaces that are inherently stressful. For example, counseling may be required after a traumatic event at work, such as witnessing a death. While developing the policies, this will help to develop a plan for dealing with work-related stress or helping an employee deal with stress that may not be related to work. Most importantly, all businesses have an obligation to ensure employee safety as much as possible at all times. This includes in protecting employees from physical, mental, and emotional stress. The workplace should also be monitored for signs of stress so the issues can be addressed as soon as possible. Employers should also be helping employees find meaning in what they do. Employees should be told why their jobs are important and how it fits into the overall business. Also, letting employees have as much control as possible over their job can help reduce the amount of stress felt by the employee. Communication is also a key factor in reducing stress in all situations, and especially in the workplace. Employees and supervisors need to learn how to communicate in order to have effective relationships, which really can sometimes be the root cause of the occupational stress. The company should also educate employees on workplace stress. Employees should know what the symptoms are, techniques for managing stress, and perhaps most importantly, employers should educate employees on preventative measures and how to address issues that may create stress. Employers should also always be trying to improve their hiring processes, new employee orientations, and training. Studies have found that the perceived ineptitude of coworkers results in higher levels of stress. Training is an especially important factor in workplace stress that can truly be resolved by the employer. Another way employers can help with workplace stress is to offer resources or programs that focus on dealing with stress. These resources could range from counseling services to actual treatment programs. Even offering childcare for financial planning could reduce stress felt by employees significantly. With the current social culture of work, the next suggestion may be harder to implement, but employers should enact work-life balance policies. These policies should be followed and not just something written down. Having a healthy work-life balance is very important, and having unhealthy balance could certainly result in workplace stress. Also, employers should be doing everything they can to prevent all forms of harassment at all times. Employees are protected from harassment in law, so it is an employer's lawful obligation to protect their employees from harassment. Another way to reduce stress that has been shown to be quite effective is healthy eating habits and fitness. Employers should encourage and promote a healthy lifestyle. The employer could even have a gym on site, give people an hour a day paid to go to the gym, or offer to pay for gym memberships. Another example of this may be distributing a healthy newsletter once a month that has healthy recipes included in it. Study results have shown that physical fitness, or more specifically yoga, may reduce stress and enhance emotional well-being at work. I feel that this is a solution that is often overlooked and underestimated. That is why it is important for the workplace to promote a healthy lifestyle. And last, but definitely not the least important, is that employers need to help destigmatize stress and mental illness. Many people still feel uncomfortable talking about stress, especially in the workplace, and this just makes the situation worse. If employees felt more comfortable talking about these issues, then their employer could try to do all they could to help before the problem gets worse. In conclusion, stress and work most definitely have something to do with one another. Businesses do have an ethical obligation to do all they can to help employees manage stress. Managing employee stress will not only benefit the employee, but will benefit the employer as well. Managing stress effectively will make employees, most importantly, healthier and happier, but will also make them more productive and effective. Managing stress in the workplace is a win-win situation. Employers should promote mental health at all times.